Hello, I'm Drakpa. Welcome. This first activate bodhicitta, wisdom and compassion, the lived experience of a tender, brave, open-hearted, grounded approach that's genuinely connected to and concerned about all beings, deeply appreciative of all beings, their amazing beauty and value and intelligence, and including ourselves. So first we open that approach as a lived worldview, a lived experience, or a view, and then we connect with wisdom beings, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, this great wisdom masters who always are in that way. They always have bodhicitta on. So we connect with them and to be receptive to their guidance, their influence, their connection, their kind of co-creative kind of, awesomeness. So we'll do that just silently for a moment, and then also do the 7-line prayer of Guru Padmasambhava briefly, and really have that be a sizzling lived experience. Bodhicitta. Jinji lobji jizo so guru pema sede hong hong wajin yudin yudan sam pema gazan wolo yazin jigid nudun ni pema jinji jizo drang kudung kando mambo go jidi jizo dabdubji jinji lobji jizo so guru pema sede hong hong wajin yudin yudan sam pema gazan wolo yazin jigid nudun ni pema jinji jizo drang Guru Gado Mambo Go Jiji Jizu Dub Dub Ji Jinji Lub Ji Jizu So Guru Pema Zide Hum Om Benza 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 Guru Pema Zide Hum. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May all beings never be separated from supreme happiness, which is without suffering. May all beings remain in boundless equanimity, free from both attachment to close ones and rejection of others. Thanks, friends. Been lately reflecting on how to overcome kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to life. This tendency to want to box everything into my way, my view, my worldview, my expectations, my assumptions, my world. This basic kind of approach of self-centeredness, usually based on a lot of fear of uncertainty, of the mystery, of what's not controllable, of interdependence. That so much of being an interdependent being means depending on a lot of other processes and beings and worlds that they're doing their own thing. They're really, I have no control over what happens with them. The weather and what someone says to me and kind of a whole range of, we all know how life seems to keep happening and we have to just respond. And we have the power over a little more how to respond, especially if we cultivate the ability over how to respond. What's my mind doing now? How is my heart? Am I open? Am I fresh? Am I relaxed? Am I energetic? Am I enthusiastic? Am I grateful? Am I really trying to tune into what's going on as opposed to expecting something or wishing something else or being super scared of what might happen? So this is all standard ways that Buddha and a lot of different wisdom traditions, but Buddhism in particular, talks about being in the present moment. The thing about being in the present moment, this ongoing lived experience of now, of what's actually happening now, in my body, in my mind, my emotions, the sounds around, what I'm seeing, what I feel, physical sensations inside, who else is in the space, larger connective features of worlds, of times that I might interact with later, these threads of connection, very locally and very non-locally. It's very vast what we're a part of here. The thing about being in the present moment is we can't hold it. It's not a question of going beyond the future expectation and going beyond the past kind of memories and replays of our greatest hits or the worst moments. And then we just need to stay somehow locked into this present aperture of like what is happening now, as if we're going to lock it down. We're going to hold on to it, fixate, freeze frame. That tendency to want to hold and lock, to hold and pause. Pause in the sense of fixating, controlling. One size fits all approach to life. Buddhism does it all. My religion does it all. My science does it all. My model of any kind does it all. My emotions communicate the full story. My ideas are like the best. My approach to life is the main one. The only one. The best one. All these tendencies to absolutize our experience, meaning absolutize what's relational, to freeze frame or reify what's an ongoing, lived, dynamic, relational process called interdependence or dependent arising, pratitya samutpada. This tendency that's so strong, it's just a bedrock strong, and it's almost always first located around me. That's called self-centeredness. The fundamental thing in Buddhism is that we have to release this self-centeredness by becoming more other-centric, by honoring like how awesomely creative and unexpected we are as well, and get really curious about that, the multiplicity of one's self, one's mind, one's body, one's heart. So dynamic, not a fixed me either. And then as we get a little more comfortable, I'm like very fluid, kind of open, like who knows what's going to happen in me kind of being, then we can generously like extend that to others. Wow, what's going on with you? Who are you today? Instead of deifying them as being, oh, the best way, the only way, kind of this romantic honeymoon version of experience, or the opposite, demonizing others. You're inherently evil and bad, and it's always, just the list of all the worst things, as if you're that way forever and always. And we can do that to ourselves too. So the question is, and the kind of inquiry is like how to overcome this habit. And firstly, it's just the need to recognize that tendency to want to absolutize my approach, my way, my technique. And then that extends. If we're Buddhists, specifically I'm a Buddhist, I identify as that, as one of the things I identify with. My practice session, the results of my practice. How is this working for me? And it's all very according to what I'm holding, what I expect, what I'm trying to get, what patterns I'm attentive to, what rules I'm following, how people line up or don't with those rules, my ideas of how this should go in a community or with my own path, or like how the Dharma should unfold in the world, what the world is, like all these ways of absolutizing, reifying, boxing. This is a really, really deep pattern. And first we do that with me, like I said, self-centeredness. That's called an emotional obscuration, where we lock into a certain type of me-centrism. My this and that. Me-centrism. Me and mine, right? And then secondly, there's called a cognitive obscurations, where we freeze frame what's happening around us. Once we actually release the self-centeredness a bit, and say you become an arhat, you become personally liberating. You no longer have an abiding, continuous, erroneous, mistaken sense of self, as if self is some fixed thing. Like once you release that, that's called personal liberation, so you no longer are going to experience suffering because the causes of suffering have been eliminated. The ignorance of an abiding, fixed entity that is me, then that releasing that sense of me being there as this fixed, continuous, ongoing, singular, independent, permanent me, that once that habit, that mistaken perception is released forever, once the causes of holding and contracting of self-grasping are released in that way, that's called liberation, personal liberation. We're liberated from experiencing suffering ever again. This type of awareness will never do that to itself again. And so even we have this arhat approach, like actually become an arhat, like become self-liberated, like release that sense of me, then we have all these habits to still hold on to the other. It gets super subtle philosophically in Buddhism. We have an experience that there being irreducible moments of space and irreducible moments of time and irreducible moments of mind. We still hold on to that even if we're arhat. That's why in Bodhisattva Yana, when you get into the third yana vehicle of Buddhism, and Sutra Mahayana, this third vehicle, like Zen, for example, or Thich Nhat Hanh, then you start releasing both the grasping onto oneself, and grasping onto other. That's called the two emptinesses. What is other in this case? Other is space and time. Grasping onto self is distinguished as a sense of me, an abiding sense of me, that's continuous, that's the same as before, that's more important than everything else. So that sense of me or self is released. And the other part is a belief in an irreducible moment of mind. And so for Bodhisattva, they achieve the two emptinesses, emptiness of self, emptiness of other, which means emptiness of moment of mind, felt sense of me, moment of space, moment of time. This is said to be achieved once we accomplish the first Bhumi Bodhisattva level, a stable abiding in bodhicitta, an emptiness of self and other. And this is also pointed towards as like middle way Yamaka view. What's this talked about technically as? We give up the belief in the actual embodied belief, the worldview of an inherent existence of any kind. That such a thing as a fixed entity exists of any kind. We release that. So there's no thing that is a moment of time. There's no thing that is a moment of space. There's no thing that is a moment of mind. And then all the bigger aggregated versions that could compile to make bigger things like fridges and worlds and TVs and economies and all that. There's no such thing as a fixed thing. So that's called emptiness. Empty of fixed thingness. Being stuck, freeze frame, frozen. And then the more technical way of talking about that in middle way Madhyamaka, according to Prasangika school, that uses reductio ad absurdum, that shows the inherent contradictions of any system that kind of seals itself as claiming to be a coherent whole. Any system that does that, any kind of even a view system, a tenet system of any kind, a belief, an idea, an emotion, a sense of me, a sense of other, anything that absolutizes itself is always wrapping itself or filtering itself through concepts. Duality mind, sem, dualistic mind, sense of subjective me and a separation to an objective other. And then there's intersubjective me with others, and then there's objective and interobjective world and worlds that we're a part of. So these are all released. This is called going beyond conceptual designation in Madhyamaka, middle way philosophy. So this is actually technically what we're doing to actually give up the belief, the embodied habitual belief, not just cognitive belief, but the way we feel it. It's giving up the belief there's a one size fits all. Buddhism does it all. My yana's the best. My technique's the best. My view's the best. My everything's the best. The one way, the final way, the definitive way, the absolute way, right? It gives up absolutizing tendency of relational processes. That's called going beyond conceptual designation. And in a more Theravada Buddhism, it's called pratitya samutpada, interdependence. We really allow everything to be interdependent. Others, selves, the interaction between the two. So that's called self, other, and interaction, or the three spheres. Subject, object, and interaction. All the three spheres are empty. These are also referred to as the three doors of liberation. The cause is empty, the result is empty, and the identity is empty. The cause is empty of characteristics. The result is empty of destination. There's no final point it gets to. There's no final resolution. And the identity itself is free of inherent existence. It's openness. It's filled with all these qualities without them being fixed in any way. These are called the three doors of liberation. So this is all really kind of technical and dry and kind of can be boring Buddhist philosophy. And the thing here is we constantly try to do this in our experience. And so we have practices designed to actually release this habit, to first clearly identify the habit, to want to lock and freeze frame experience, reify, or whatever, fixate. It's often called grasping. Grasp to self, grasp to other. So we have techniques to release this and to see what? The dependent origination of phenomena. Everything's 5 aggregates, or there's the 12 links, or there's just all these ways of kind of like seeing the openness of mind, the boundlessness of heart, these 4 boundless practices. The kind of, Vajrayana opens it into the multiplicity of selfing. I could be a blue being with 4 arms. I could be a red being with a consort in the size of a penny, or the size of a whole universe, emanating all these lights that achieve all these kind of Dharma, kind of instant enlightenment activity results. And then the whole world dissolves into me, and then I reshape as a syllable that has a certain sound, and then that happens for 5 minutes of a puja, and then that dissolves into open space again, formlessness. Then arises as another kind of seed syllable sound, which becomes another type of being, enlightened being with a different shape, size, form, whatever. It's just shape-shifting, kind of transcendental wisdom, rainbow bodies moving in seemingly illusory space and time and bodies. It's free of conceptual designation. And so then we're training ourselves to play in the open flexibility of world making, of sense making, of moving between ways of knowing, ways of being, methods. We're trying to flex flow creatively, clearly, precisely, skillfully, attuned to actually what is helpful now, in this present moment, with my own body and mind as it is, with others and their bodies and minds as they are, and more others. And we're more deeply unfolding as we go through Bodhisattva Bhumis. We're more deeply unfolding more of the layered interdependence. Now we're going to include 2 lives back for the 2 people. Now 4 lives back for 8 people. Now 1,000 lives back into the past for 1,000 people. These Bhumis are just expanding the aperture of like how sensitive, how connected, how actively in precise communication we can be with the living powers, the living interactive power of interdependence. And it's boundless, it's limitless, it's inexhaustible. And so once we get boundless and actually we're with an inexhaustible, overflowing kind of internetworked systems infinitely, of all beings and all spaces and all times and all worlds and all everything, humans and non-humans and all that. Once we can do that, that means we're completely including all of inexhaustible, boundless relationality. That's called the omniscience of relative truth. And if we see the empty, open quality, the totally flexible nature of all of it, that happens precisely. That's called the omniscience of absolute truth. And they say a Buddha, an enlightened being, a fully awakened one, does these 2 simultaneously. Omniscience of relative and omniscience of absolute. Is it a final fixed anything? No. That absolutizing tendency of a one-size-fits-all is given up early on, right at the beginning of stabilizing the Bodhisattva way of being, of bodhicitta on all the time. That's first Bhumi layer, first Bhumi level. A Buddha just expands the aperture to go deep into space, deep into time, deep into bodies, deep into worlds, the small micro, the medium-sized meso, the very big macro, the macro, like infinitely big, infinitely small, infinitely interactive, according to actually what is happening. What's actually the cause of conditions and effects that are in play, in whichever part of reality is helpful for us to zoom into and get really granular and detailed with, so we can more effectively be of service to others, to the teachings, to the beings, meaning how are they aching? What is actually the kind of specific, ignorant kind of me fixation and all the klesha kind of me-centric, self-centered activities that have become habitual for that being. And that means for ourselves too. If we're not awakened, I'm not. So then what is the actual living threads here? What is the symphony of samsara that's actually playing in the present moment? We're trying to get really detailed about that in a present moment without fixating or holding, because living things are dynamic. Sounds just happen. It's magic because it's so precise. because it's so interlayered with exact finitude of plenitude, an inexhaustible plenitude of interactions, of processes, of relationships. And so the relevance of this is we really like this kind of a view, this middle way Nyingma view, and then practices to enact it, to embody it, to release the certain tendencies we have to want a one-size-fits-all approach. Because we're scared of the multiplicity, of the bigness, of the uncertainty and the mystery of being interdependent, of being a part of this interdependent, field of reality that we can't control or fully know. Yet, I mean, there's no final knowing because it keeps moving and interacting in inexhaustible scales of space and time and mind. Even a Buddha with 2 omnisciences, they don't get to a final state. It just keeps going. But we're scared. How does this practically show up? Like, we need the techniques to actually release these patterns after we identify them, so that we can be more available to a present moment of actual things happening, of actual patterns that are enacting right now with me and others in a context, with a community, in a space, so that we can actually show up with what is the model, what is the game, what are the assumed realities, what is the given in this context, what is being fixated on, what is the dream that's being believed in, what is the story that we keep repeating. A bodhisattva goes into the story that's actually in play. It works with the movie. It works with the theater production. It works with the dream. It works with the hallucination. It works with the invisible hallucinatory patterns of any kind of being's karmic, habitual, like shape-shifting worlding. A great bodhisattva is willing to play in any kind of a mess. The beautiful ones, the horrible ones. The hell realm ones, the God realm ones. They're not picky. They don't have preferences over which beings they help. Bodhicitta includes all beings. They help with the beings that they have connections with, that they can actually, be like, have, like deep support, like that they can actually connect with and uplift, even if that's just aspirationally. They're creating the better conditions for future enactment, for future applied bodhicitta. If it's something's outside of our aperture of knowing or our interactivity that we can't yet feel through it and sense to it with actual precision, we aspire to do that more. We aspire to be able to do that in the future. In this illusory future. At this point, it's all illusion. Illusion me, illusion body, illusion mind, illusion space, illusion history, illusion time, it's all. So we're talking about it's all illusory at this point. That's what middle way Nyingma points to. That's what the Buddha said. It's all like a dewdrop, a reflection, a moon and water. It's all like just these kind of echoes and wispy, wind, and all these things that are trying to point to the actual interdependent nature of things not being stuck in any way. So we aspire to include it all, knowing there's no final all. This is why Dzogchen, the great perfection, the great completion, is said to be the final jhana, because it's the only jhana in Tibetan Buddhism that doesn't rely on any kind of conceptual designation. All the other jhanas assume some kind of conceptualization, some kind of habitual obscuration. It's a holding zone. Even Anu Yoga, it's a holding zone. There's these deities inside of all these internested mandalas, these pure sacred worlds and enlightened activities. And if we're not yet fully experiencing that, without holding it at all, it just becomes an apparent present reality, then we're holding it. We're trying to be in touch with it. We're trying to work with it. We're trying. So it's like there's an effortfulness, a sense of me having to do something. And so this slight holding is why it's not yet complete. We have to totally release these holding patterns, this sense of I'm holding my attention, I'm holding my body, even if it's a very big holding space like all of time or something. It's still a holding space, a holding zone, because time isn't fixed. There's no final border or boundary or set shape or size. And same with mind and same with space. And then the further we get into exoteric or obvious or literal or kind of more tangible, then our holding patterns become more tangible. Big clunky things like 5 aggregates, are big clunky things like tables and computers and economies and nations and the very clunky things. Very big, approximate Google mapping addresses. Like very, very approximate ballparks of really childish kind of like reference. Like we're using symbols that point towards giant swaths. It's like imagining a Milky Way galaxy as if that's a single thing. This includes so much overflowing subsystems of interactivity of beings and worlds and histories and traumas and dramas and all that. But so the more tangible we get in Buddhism and then into a lot of non-Buddhism, the more kind of approximate we get. The more, baby version of reality we get. The bigger box we get. That's just less granular, less detailed. But sometimes we need to know which zone of the universe are we in? Are we in the Milky Way or not? It's helpful to be able to locate. And then we zoom in from there and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in. And the thing about having effective, skillful help is we need to zoom into the right spot that's actually happening right now in the present moment. Because otherwise we're talking about some image, some kind of snapshot, some recording of something that's not there anymore. It's like it's a movie that already played, like the actors went home. Like we're just replaying a story in our head of when someone said something to us. It's like it's referring to nothing that exists anymore. It's just literally repeating an image, repeating a sequence of kind of mind states, or however we want to like think about it, whatever system we want to use to describe it. But it's not actually happening. It's just pointing towards something not there. So we have to actually locate it in our present embodied awareness that actually enfolds as many connections as we can with skillfulness, realizing their illusory nature, that's wisdom, and to do it compassionately, with a lot of heart, with a lot of passionate care. But that means we have to show up in the living dynamics, means according to the beliefs, the bodies, the games, the expectations, the habits, the ideas. So this points towards the main point of like why I'm even bringing this up. The ability to move between worlds helpfully, skillfully. The ability to stay within one world skillfully, helpfully. It's not the true. We give up that idea of there being a true world or one way of moving between worlds, or this one size fits all thing. It's not about finding the only way, the only right world, the one model that includes them all, the one story that's the meta story, the meta integrative model that includes them all, That tendency we really need to give up. And I say that to me, you need to really give that up. In the end, a great completion is complete because it includes all the story-making possibilities. It doesn't say which one's true. Which one's ontologically true is like what you assume when the play happens and everyone gets their characters and you have the script and you run through the motions of it. And there's diverse nuance and uniqueness that happens because different actors do different things and different body gestures and different things pop up on the scene, and you innovate and you do jazz improvisation, because it's a live dynamic. It's fine that it's just a play, that it's a drama, that it's a dream. The question is like, how can we move between dreams and not suffer? How do we not suffer? Because we never believed this dream was real. So then it changes and we're like, oh, I lost it. It's like I lost a dream that was never there in a way, that in some fixed stuck way. Or now a bad dream comes, we get some unexpected bad news. Oh, it's not real either. Dreamlike, this is going beyond conceptual designation. So this skill to move between and within dreams, worlds, ontologies, epistemologies, methodologies, the meta skill, the bodhisattva skill, is to attune to the dreams in play, and as many of them we can attune to simultaneously and have it still be a symphony with coherence. Not just some random mashup of a bunch of shit put together that makes you sick when you eat it. But actually a beautiful, coherent meta-patterning, like this dreams of dreams of dreams that all have their logics and their histories and their cultures and their societies and the infrastructures. They have very detailed patterns. The Buddha said cause, condition, and effect, or karma, is infallible. And if you look at it absolutely, it's just a dream. On the absolute level, there's no such thing as karma. because it's all dreamlike. But on the relative level, every single dream follows exact patterns of cause, condition, and effect according to the dream. So this game metaphor is so good. Tennis. Learn to play tennis. There's very specific rules. They might slightly change over time, but once you're in a game right now, today, with other players, the rules don't change mid-game. That's called bad faith or cheating. Or just anarchy, where you're just like, you can never agree on what's happening, so it all becomes just a big mess. But a game is a really good metaphor because there's totally arbitrary rules. They're agreed upon temporarily. There's set goals. There's set expectations. There's a skill level that's easily measured. How fast, how strong, how diverse, how much. I mean, it depends on the game and the metrics of the game, like what's considered winning and losing. All that is set. Very specific pattern rules, like karma, infallible rules. It's just the line is here or not here, you know, they either it's a touchdown or not. And you look at the cameras, and as they get better, you can literally see to the centimeter, like where was the foot on the line or not. It's very exact, but it's just American football, you know, like who cares? A bodhisattva cares. Because if someone's super into it, like you live within their worlding, and you show up with care, and you love on them in ways that are helpful, and you help them realize, hey, this is American football, your team lost, it's okay, you know. You want to go like hang out now? Like, or how you doing? Oh, it's all right. Like, I'll listen. I'll empathize and be with you, you know. This is really, I can tell this is really hard, you know. It's not about the dream being real or the game being real. Like, oh, there's a real world, and like just wasting our time on these games and movies and poetry and all these soft sciences, like that's not as real. That's called myth of the framework. Or you can call it myth of the given. So modernism has myth of the given. We all assume some kind of a given. In pre-modern times, like empire, that this nation's the only way, this religion's the only way. That's given, as if that's the one way and everything else is a deviation or untrue. Then science. Myth of the given is this science is the only way. Physics and physical laws are immutable. Chemistry and chemical laws are immutable. This hard sciences are like the most quantifiable, concrete, testable, predictable, replicable. Like that's the true thing, the only way. But they're pointing to models, and models all have limits. They're all partial, and it works for some things and not for a lot of other things. And that's just how science is. That's why there's so many sciences. The idea to find a single elegant thread through them all that does it all, that is the myth of the final meta framework. The final model that will not be a model anymore, it'll actually be reality. It's just not going to happen. Every model is partial. It's not reality. It's just a mapping of reality. And we can casually say the map isn't the territory, but we keep believing that the map is the territory. And some maps locate certain parts of reality really well, and they explain it. The Google Maps zoom into this place and this time, and you can get super nuanced and different filters and see what it's like and see certain stores and see different 360 views. But it's only related to this game, this one little section on the planet Earth and this little spot. And you can zoom out and zoom in. So you need to know which game you're playing, where you're zooming. So if you're with someone, you zoom into the actual thing that's happening with them and you in the relational connection, and that's just a game. It's not really truly fixed real in any final permanent way. It's just a moving dynamic set of nuanced processes, but it's in that moment, in that set, it's a game. It has set patterns and rules, and you arbitrarily hold them as if they're real. And so we have to really have a willingness to be as if this game's real, as if this person's drama is really important, as if this movie is like really worth crying over, as if this novel is like boring, as if this science is going to really save the day, as if this meta model is going to map all of reality. We can play these games and we can try to actually be like mutually win-win, omni-win supportive, like so that everyone after the game, you know, is uplifted. Like whether you lost, you like learned something, whether you won, yeah, that's great. But in the end, like it's omni-win, the Bodhisattva approach. Why? Why can we do that? Because we've already released the habit of trying to find one size fits all, including one meta map, one religion, one science, one dominant narrative, one final meta map. That is released in Buddhism and with middle way, Madhyamaka. That's what we're trying to release and not just talk about as if going beyond conceptual designation is something we can just say and then it's done. We actually have to release the habitual locking mechanism of self-other grasping so that we don't do it, so that we actually can free flow in and as interdependence. This is called becoming a bodhisattva. And all of a sudden, once we can do that, we recognize the emptiness of awareness, then all of a sudden its fullness of arising inactive wisdom qualities turn on. And all of a sudden, we can realize, at least according to Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, there's all kinds of worlds of beings who already have accomplished that. And they're doing all kinds of activities that we really didn't see yet. But all of a sudden be like, holy, wow, this is like, Manjushri's here already. And at a certain point, this is a different thing. That's talking about wisdom beings. But we can also, like once we release certain habitual ways of grasping, see other sentient beings we didn't see before, like hell beings, hungry ghost beings, asura warring gods, form and formless gods. These aren't noble Arya beings who are abiding in emptiness, wisdom, awareness. They're just sentient beings that are operating on a different vibration or frequency, or they have different ontologies or worlds and knowing capacities called epistemologies and methods, ways that they enact with and co-shape and are affected by their worlds and the beings in those worlds. They just have different kind of radio signal like alignments. There's all this room's filled with all the radio waves, right? And we have a certain channeling, certain frequencies, certain kind of thing that we line up with, and it all becomes like the reality I'm in. And other people are on other radio wavelengths, and they're like in totally other world systems with other beings doing other activities that have their own histories and the whole thing. This is called 6 realms in Tibetan Buddhism. This is like a very kind of elaborate set of teachings the Buddha gave on this in the sutras and tantras. Are any of those radio wave signal frequency stories, whatever's real? No. They're all illusory. But there's tons of beings that have all these histories, lots of sentient beings. And if our compassion, our bodhicitta really turns on, we will care to be in their dreamscape too. Because it's not about it being real or human. It has to fit into the human box, you know? No, it's just we have to show up in someone else's box according to what we're available for and what they're available for. And there's the communication, the connection. And with that connection, we do whatever we can to nourish it and love and support and uplift and be patient and generous and kind and reliable and have wisdom. This is just one way to do it. It's one game, one dreamscape, one worlding, and it's changing. It's very dynamic already. This moment already left. It's already new. And then we release and we zoom into another spot with a different dreamscape. And eventually we get really good at being in multiple spots with multiple bodies and multiple ways of knowings and multiple worlds and multiple layers. And this is called moving through the Bodhisattva Bhumi levels. In Vajrayana, this is like the way we practice in Vajrayana. First you're just Rigpa, then infinite compassion is like pervading quality, and that arises as a certain sound which takes the shape of a syllable, which transforms into a human-like body, and that sometimes transforms into a human-like body with a partner, and then you have a retinue, and then you have a world, and you have all these other beings in the world, and you have sentient beings, and then you receive the blessings of all the Buddhas and all the noble ones, and you make offerings to them, you know, and then you gather the blessings into you, and then you become inseparable and intermingled like an enlightened being too. And then as an enlightened being, you go and you connect with all the beings, you purify all their karma, you give them all the supportive needs they need. And then you get more blessings from the Buddhas, and eventually then the Buddha's blessings totally come down on you, like a Guru Yoga section. And then this is like totally fills you. You become inseparable from the wisdom minds of all the enlightened beings throughout all boundless space, time, and body, mind. And then that world that you were in temporarily, it changes shape and changes activities. That's called a sadhana practice. And you're training and moving between worlds and systems with elegance, with accuracy, without being stuck and be, oh, I have to be blue, or I have to be big, or I have to be small, or I have to have a human body, or I have to have a human head, or no, I could have a other head. I can be a different shape. I can be super teeny tiny. I could be a sonic. I could be a body of mist. It's all transcendental wisdom rainbow body. I don't even need a body. I can just be awareness, open awareness. So we're training in that in Vajrayana. In the end, we receive the blessings. We intermingle with the wisdom mind qualities of all the Buddhas. Then that dissolves from the world into the retinue, into the partner, into ourselves, from ourselves into the seed, like the samadhi Sattva, that's a Buddha in our heart. Into the seed syllable in that heart. So that's a seed, like the specific other kind of wisdom being, and then that seed syllable dissolves, and then we just have open, formless Rigpa awareness. The emptiness quality is like emphasized, and it still has this impressive, boundless, cognitive, like expressive intelligence happening called love, compassion, wisdom. And then we just abide in the openness of reality. And then it turns on and reshapes. The dreams continue forever. So this is like all about trying to go beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to anything, to Buddhism, to Vajrayana Buddhism, to Dzogchen, to Theravada Buddhism. That's why there's no war here. There's not an ongoing war between Tibetan Buddhists and Zen people and Theravada Buddhists. From the perspective of Dzogchen, or of Tibetan Buddhism, there's no war. It's just a question of skillfully showing up with whatever's helpful in the present, as big as I can be in a present moment with interactivity that's accurate. There's not a war between Buddhists and non-Buddhists. Everyone doesn't need to become a Buddhist. Everyone doesn't need to become an integralist. What we need to do is stop believing only my way is the right way, and so then we instantly try to fight everyone that doesn't fit in our box. That's the thing that needs to be overcome. That's called self-centeredness and the karmic activities based on that ignorance, and it's called samsara. The endless preventable drama of samsara that's not here. It's just illusory. It's a total mistaken view, but it really feels real, a real suffering. And we can all relate to that. So like, how do we move between worlds, between bodies, between ways of knowing? How do we actually do that? And then we do practices with lineages connecting to wisdom beings who are holding it as wisdom holders, not as fixed, rigid, sentient holders, fixators, but as wisdom beings who are like alive with the vibrant interactivity of awareness, of embodied awareness, of awareness that always has a wisdom wind quality, always has an expressive embodied quality called transcendental wisdom rainbow body. And we do these practices and we receive these blessings and we realize that on the absolute level we're no different than the awareness of all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all the Arhats. Even the sentient beings, they have the same Buddha nature awareness as us. But there's an infinite multiplicity of ways this awareness can shine. As nightmares, as good dreams, and the infinite plenitude of each of those. And we're trying, because we care, to more skillfully play someone else's game, be in their model, be in their science, be in their religion, with clear discerning boundaries where we're not, if it's a super toxic thing that's very dangerous, we have very clear boundaries, and that's when wrathful activity turns on. Wisdom wrath. We're like, no, not going to play this super torture game. Nope, not going to do it. I'm actually going to prevent it. I'm going to lock you into a prison box so you can't, like, you know, spread your torturous, you know, destructive, totally saran wrap encapsulating one-size-fits-all colonizing approach onto a world and kill everything. No, I'm going to stop that. With skill, with love in your heart, with compassion, clear, exacting, surgical precision, wisdom activity. As an embodied, for aspirationally, as a bodhisattva aspiration with bodhicitta, and then more and more you practice it as a wisdom being, as a Buddha, with a retinue, doing activities in real time, until you actually accomplish that. You become realized and you can actually skillfully affect this other reality dreamscapes of beings. Because you can so skillfully like populate, like be with the living currents of that dreamscape that you can start to very creatively affect it. And you'll really put a stop to harmful things as quickly as possible, because that's what you want to do, to reduce harm, to uplift and bring more happiness, more joy, more goodness, more virtue, more merit, more kindness, more good qualities of body, speech, and mind. And ultimately, just elegantly rest, relax, be natural. This is all already beautiful wisdom display. There's no fire to put out. There's no bliss to just totally zone out in. It's just all naturally wonderful, lovely, simple, just so amazing. Just emaho, like totally amazing. And there's wisdom beings who've done that. Take the time to really find them. Be in their presence. You'll see what it's like to be in the presence of a being who actually is this way. Their field is totally saturated with love, compassion, and wisdom. Their bodhicitta is always on, and it does things because we're in their field. They're interacting with us. tangibly and less tangibly and very quietly, like when we're close to them, at a distance, in our dreams, in all kinds of ways. These being around these wisdom beings, these bodhisattva wisdom beings, is such one of the most precious things we can do with our life, to connect with them, to learn from them, to serve them, to like even just anything we can do to like follow in their footsteps is 100% evolutionarily rewarding. It's so refreshingly beneficial. Not because we're some sycophants and we have to deify them. It's not theism. This is all about giving up. Theism is just one way of one size fits all. Believing there's these fixed deities and Buddhas and all that. That's totally given up in Tibetan Buddhism. With Middle Way Nyingma, there's no fixed anything. No fixed human, no fixed me, my history, no fixed my path, none of that. That's all just samsaric mode of mind. But be in the presence of these wisdom beings, because they can really help us do this, help ourselves do this. They can give us advice where we can become masters of ourselves. We can actually become natural, lovely, amazing wisdom beings. It's our very nature. We can finally relax and let our nature do what it does when we don't block it, when we don't fixate, when we don't make ourselves into one size fits all, one way only. Don't color outside of the box, Drakpa. It's a very big box. How lovingly can I be in your box? How lovingly are you willing to be in my box? Because if all of a sudden we get this wiggly room where we create, all of a sudden we can play in each other's dreams in mutually supportive ways, then this becomes a very beautiful thing we're a part of. Buddha Maitreya said it's like walking from park to park. It's not a pit of vipers. It's not like we're monkeys in a forest and there's fire on all 360 sides of us. We just don't know it yet. This is all pure land already. This is very clearly taught in Tibetan Buddhism. Then we can just enjoy it and then show up with deep, heartfelt care and concern for other beings who don't see this yet or only see it partially. And I pray I don't see it at all. I pray that I can see that directly, visually, and I can hear it, and I can sense it, and feel it, and taste it, and touch it, in all the ways that I can be enacted and an embodied being with worlds. I pray that I can fully be immersed in Dewa Chen or other Pure Lands, so that I can really wake up to the natural inherent qualities of wisdom, compassion, and love that is the nature, the very fabric of reality, boundless, inexhaustible, non-fixated, open, responsive, creative, amazing. Love you all. And just silently kind of enjoy the openness and its radical wisdom display for a moment, happening as this moment, like your awareness happening and interfacing and this embodied feeling is so amazing. Just silently enjoy it, and then we'll dedicate the merit, the virtue, the positive benefit, the healthy, happy, good, positive grasping, so that all beings can relax into their non-grasping, natural wisdom, awareness, heart-mind. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. Precious bodhicitta, and those without it, may it be generated, and those who have it, may it never diminish, but always continue increasing. Deity, mantra, and dharmakaya are the nature of appearance, sound, and awareness, the pervasive kaya and wisdom display of the Buddhas. May practitioners of the profound and secret great perfection remain inseparable from the innermost one-taste awareness of wisdom mind. All love, friends. Enjoy it. Be good to each other. See the dreamlike quality. You are Buddha.